Hey everyone, this is episode 40 of Sketch Watch Play, a pop culture podcast talking movies, TV, cartoons, video games, and everything that comes with those. You can find us on iTunes, Google Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and most third-party podcast apps and directories. If you want to stay updated or send us feedback and topic suggestions, you can email us at sketchwatchplay@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at SketchWatchPlay. Join the Discord server that I'll be including links to in episode descriptions from now on. And if you enjoy what you hear, you can support the show by leaving positive reviews on Apple Podcasts, which helps them promote it more, and spread the word to friends, family, social media, whatever. I am John Fleury, and today marks two occasions I'm very excited for. The first one being that we've now hit the 40s. We're getting ever closer to episode 50, which I'm just personally going to view as a hell of a milestone, because I feel like people do that with every multiple 25. I don't know who decided that was the milestone, but I'll stick with it. But I'd say way more important than that, today's guest means a lot for this show because we are taking a special visit back to the OG Sketch Watch Play pairing. I am so grateful that you've been able to take the time to talk today and help pick some amazing topics for us. Ladies and gents, Christopher Wade is finally on the show again. Chris, how are you?
Hey everyone. Hey John, thanks for having me back. It's good to be here.
It is my pleasure. This has been a long time coming, both because of the show's hiatus and just we've both been busy as hell.
Yeah, we have been pretty burdened by our own hobbies and by the media and unfortunately the world.
Yes.
We are.
We all have. I was just talking to you about it before we started recording. We've all been hit in certain ways, but we've all kept going as well. And real quick, just get us up to speed on this because it's been a hot minute since we've had you on here, even as a guest. What are some things you've been working on or involved with?
So some of the things I've been involved with, of course, I'm still working on my film. It's gotten a little bit of attention. I can't talk about what kind of attention quite yet, but some interesting developments.
Those pesky NDAs.
Pesky NDAs, yeah.
There's a voice role I really want to talk about, but can't till the thing's out.
Let's see. Me and my wife moved to her parents' place about a year and a half ago. We have been, I don't want to say... Let me think. So we've both been taking up a lot of cooking and a lot of baking, my wife and I.
That's awesome.
So besides the general hobbies of getting the film up and running and just surviving COVID and playing a whole bunch of video games and trying to work through the carpal tunnel, we've been doing pretty well.
That's fantastic, and I wish Serena the best. For people who haven't listened to it, I want to say her biggest role in the show was during our Spider-Verse episode because I recorded that at your old place.
That's right.
And she had a great time. I just want to bring it up. I know that you have done a couple podcast guest stints as well. So going back to our previous episode and kind of what's become a sister show at this point, you were on Generation Animation to talk about Soul.
I was. That was fun. I hadn't talked with the Generation Animation guys for quite a while, so that was interesting.
Yeah, those are always fun.
Yeah, it's always great to speak with those guys concerning animation and what's going on in the biz, and some of the social implications of certain movies. That was really fun.
I said it on the last show, and I'll say it again. I love the movie, but I totally agree with you that changing 22's casting would have solved a lot of problems.
It kind of would, but it's neither here nor there. So, I mean, the movie is out. The movie's out. It's about to, I assume, it's going to win an Oscar.
Probably. I need to sit down and watch Wolf Walkers soon because I feel like that's the only one that's going to be bidding for my attention.
I really, really dig the look of Wolf Walkers. I really want to sit down and watch it.
I loved Song of the Sea and Secret of Kells, so I think I'm probably going to at very least enjoy it.
I dug Song of the Sea more than I like Secret of Kells. I would. The thing is that I don't have Apple TV, so I'm having a hard time just trying to sit. I don't want to be the kind of person that logs on to a service and then logs back off because I know companies know we're doing that anyways. I want to try and be a little authentic and stick with the one, but you got to have something that I want to watch. And the only two things I want to watch on Apple TV are Central Park and the Wolf Walkers.
Yep, so I got three. Those two and that Snoopy show that I've heard pretty good things about.
Right. The Snoopy show's on there too. Yeah, so maybe one day I'll check it out, or if not, I'll just grab it. If it'll come out on Blu-ray, I swear I'll buy it.
Better.
Yeah.
But I want to bring up, this was a little longer ago, and I've honestly forgotten the name of it. You were on an episode of a podcast that focuses on and spotlights Black artists.
Yes, it's called Black and Animated. It was sometime it was about a year ago now. So sometime last February, March was when I did that. Let's see, it was Way Singleton and Brianna. Oh man, I'm blanking on her last name, and I feel real bad about that because they're really good people. They're amazing. One sec.
Well, you are helping spread the word right now, so there's that.
Yeah. So, oh no, now it doesn't want to work. Brianna Williams. Yes. So Brianna Williams and Wayman Singleton host the Black and Animated podcast. They give a lot of really great tidbits and spotlights on Black and minority creators within the industry right now. Mm-hmm. And they're doing incredible things at Disney, at Nick, at Cartoon Network, just a whole bunch of stuff that they're highlighting. So it was really nice to be able to speak with them about my little film, working in indie animation, and like just getting people more involved, essentially. So that was nice. I like that. They're really fun.
Yep, recommend people go and look that up, and the show that both that and Generation Animation as a whole, if you like those individual episodes. Mm-hmm. And we do have 3 main topics we want to move on to, but I'm going to do a little bit of a lightning round, because I will say, if you have any recent media that you want to sum your thoughts up in like 2 or 3 sentences, I would love to hear that, because I have 2. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, you go first, because I just something just came to mind right at this moment that I do want to highlight. So
nice.
Go for it.
I'll say 2 things. On the game side, I'm a little late to it because I was hesitant, but I'm binging Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity and liking it a lot more than I thought I would.
Okay.
Particularly because I didn't care for the original Hyrule Warriors. This is repetitive, and it doesn't run as well, but it's pretty fun. It's cool to get more in the world of Breath of the Wild, even if it's kind of like an Elseworld story, because, minor spoilers, there's time travel involved, and they're using less Back to the Future Looper rules and more Avengers Dragon Ball rules. This is an alternate timeline, but it does mean more opportunities to see these characters and actors and concepts built, and the characters feel distinct. Also,
that's cool.
Yeah. Also, yesterday just finished Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Ooh.
I don't know where you are with the Disney Plus Marvel shows.
So we literally just started Falcon and Winter Soldier last night.
It's really good. I enjoyed WandaVision, but it feels like there's a lot more. Let me put it this way: when they said that this was going to cover this show really is about Sam, and I'm not going to spoil stuff. Hopefully, you've managed to stay unspoiled. There was a thing like midway through that broke the internet. But if you think it's going to be something as smooth as, oh, this black man gets the shield and is immediately Captain America, and you think about the real world ramifications of that, this show genuinely explores that, genuinely justifies it and explains it, and fleshes both Sam and Bucky out in such great ways that being side characters in a 2-hour movie couldn't allow them before. It's cool. Such a great use of the format, and touches on a lot of real world parallels, both racially and not even like societally as well. Wise, like the villains in this are a direct result of Thanos. So it's like and the conflict. Like I'd been hoping like this whole event and the 5-year gap and coming back should have ramifications beyond the obvious, and they're going for it.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
I'll be sure to continue with it.
Okay, and so what are any recent pieces of media you want to sum up real quick?
So on the game side, I want to say that I've been kind of interested in playing the brand new Bravely Default 2 that came out. I played the demo, and while I like it, I'm not really in love with the art style this time around, and I'm not really gravitating towards the characters like I did with the first Bravely Default. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm a big JRPG person. So coming back to Bravely Default again after Bravely Second came out, and after all these years, the first Bravely Default was on the 3DS, so it's been a while. But I haven't really been getting into that game after the demo, for one reason or another.
It didn't seem to blow up as much as the first.
No, which is a shame because I really wanted it to, but the art style just didn't grab me as hard for some reason.
They didn't translate it to HD as well as they could have.
Yeah, I think something about it just doesn't seem right to me, and I didn't really gravitate towards the characters as well as the first game. Maybe I was looking for those characters again, or I was looking for the feeling those characters gave me the first time, and I'm a different person than I was 6 or 8 years ago that game came out. So maybe, so maybe that just wasn't for me. So I started playing a series called Atelier Ryza or something.
I saw you playing that on my Switch Break activity. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. It's like, a lot of JRPGs go for this big bombastic story where it's like, the church or the dark god has arisen.
The world-ending calamity.
Yeah, you have to save the kingdoms or save Midgar or some shit. But this one is just like a girl has to find a job. Or I'm sorry, a big titty anime girl has to find a job.
There you go. Now it's JRPG.
The funny thing is that it's quite good, actually.
Cool.
So it's not super serious. It's very slice of life anime and how you meet your friends and how you help solve their problems. But it does kind of like relax you because you're not just battling monsters day in and day out, but you're concocting recipes and making stronger or better weapons at your little cauldron or atelier. And you're just in this little cottage just making shit happen. So it's a very cottage core RPG. I'm playing the sequel right now where it has a lot more action based. And
didn't they do a double pack?
I don't know if they did or not.
But you bought it?
I did buy the second one.
Okay.
And the game is quite fun and quite relaxing in a way that most JRPGs are not.
Yeah, so that is a pretty long-running series. I actually, back when I was a game critic, reviewed Atelier Ayesha on PS3.
Yeah, it's surprising like how far back those games go.
I think they go back to PS2 even.
They do. So I might be interested in checking those other ones out one day, but I'm having a blast with Atelier Ryza 2 and 1.
Nice.
So second thing, and then we can get right into it. Have you seen this show called Invincible?
I watched the first episode and the second half of the second episode. The first half of the second episode, and I needed a breather because it pulls the rug out from under you big time.
Yeah, it's rough.
No spoilers, but you think the show's gonna be one thing, and then it punches you in the face.
Yeah, it's a straight up face punch, gut punch, testicle punch, what have you. It's very surprising,
but it's good.
Very surprising, very dramatic. I'd almost say we've enjoyed it more than we've enjoyed the Winter Soldier, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier so far. So we're on the 8th episode where it looks like shit's about to wrap up. We don't know. We'll see what happens next Friday. But I encourage you guys, if you have Amazon Prime or Amazon Video, or whatever the streaming service is for Amazon Video, check out Invincible. It's extremely good. There is some wonderful talent on there. The voice cast is amazing. I'm not going to tell you who is in it. Just be on the lookout for a couple of actors that you all know.
Disclaimer: if you are squeamish, even with animated gore and violence, maybe not.
Yeah.
Like I said, so, when it goes for it, I think it's intended to horrify you.
Yeah, it's definitely a shock value kind of show, but
it's got a good story to back it up.
Yes, it's definitely got some great story-driven, character-driven moments. So if you're okay with violence, hyper-violence even, and gore, give it a shot. I think it's worth it.
All right, and I'm just going to say as a transition to our next thing, I haven't talked to many people about this outside my family, but I got to say to some degree in COVID, I have fallen down the VTuber rabbit hole.
Oh,
well, two in particular, because there's like tons of big ones, but I saw that Ekum Bokum cartoon. It was like, what is this? And now I've been binging Korone, the dog girl.
Okay.
She's just so random and funny. I can't help but laugh. And I don't watch their live streams because they're in Japanese usually, or they're long. But people always do highlight reels. And so I'm watching those. I'm also subscribed to Neoners, who's an American one. Who's also just weird and vulgar but honestly funny. I say watch like her Ocarina of Time videos where she just goes all out. But my point is, I think I'm going to start doing fan animations of them because that's become a thing.
Oh, neat. Cool.
And I'm not going to spoil what, but I've actually, Korone, one clip that went viral of her is her miming, changing her AC while yelling beep, 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 beep. And that's going to be our alarm sound. It's not going to be a regular alarm. It's going to be this Japanese girl beeping.
Okay, cool. Let's do it.
Yeah, but getting to our first main topic, we've got about 25 minutes for this. We're revisiting something from back in, I believe it was our Wonder Woman episode, back in like 2017. Jesus Christ, talking about our personal projects. So let's each give us like 10 minutes. And Chris, you've got a lot to show about this online. Tell me, how goes the Will of Monsters?
When a man has but one thing left to lose, what will he do to protect it? When a boy wants to prove himself, what will he sacrifice to do so?
The Will of Monsters is, okay, for those who don't know, if you're new to this show, The Will of Monsters is my young adult action adventure fantasy film that I am making independently. So the idea is this witch joins forces with two bumbling scarecrows in order to survive the night against a violent group of crows. So the intention of this film is to act as a first episode of an eventual series. If it doesn't, it can stand on its own as just a standalone project. But to answer your question, how I'm going about this project, how I'm doing with it, I'm doing very well, actually.
That's fantastic.
There was a point earlier this year where I had a moment where I was like, holy shit, I'm in production now. Oh no.
I'm down. I can't pull out now. I can't pull out
now. Yeah. So I've gotten to the point now where I do need more animators and I do need more storyboard artists and background artists to jump aboard. Mm-hmm. But I'm not sure if I mentioned this, and I probably have not. Yeah, it has been a while since I mentioned this on the show. So I switched from Adobe Flash / Animate to an entirely different program. Adobe Flash has not been very kind to me, and I do feel that while it's effective for some animators, personally speaking, I found that it's glitchy as hell.
It's rather notorious for that, yeah.
Yeah, and it's also been, I've also found it to have been stifling to my growth as an artist personally. This is intrinsic to me. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that people could just drop Adobe Flash if you can make lively art out of it for yourself and for your own art. For me personally, I found that I wasn't really growing with it. So I figured time to put it down, do some research into some other projects. Into some other software. So
I was about to say you're in this project.
No. Yeah. So still in this project, but I started looking at other software to animate better for it. So I started looking at this thing called Animation Paper, which is which I think has a beta version still going on, and I found that it was pretty good. There's some other software out there called Krita and OpenTunes.
Yep.
And you can just jump right on into those, give those a shot. You'll find that it works really well and probably better than spending, I don't know, $20, $30 a month for them.
I spend $50 a month for the Adobe suite.
Yeah.
I wish I didn't have to.
That's how much I was spending at that point. And then I said, me and my wife agreed that it was time for us to try some alternatives.
Yeah.
So we started buying things. We started buying more licenses for Clip Studio Paint and DaVinci Resolve for video editing. We haven't found anything as good as a replacement as we needed for After Effects. After Effects is still really extremely necessary for compositing and for giving your animations that final kind of polished look.
Yeah, I will say I've switched from I've also switched to Clip Studio Paint for drawing, not for animating. I'm still using Toon Boom Harmony. But Clip Studio is so good. Like the flexibility of its brushes and being able to share those. And maybe it's just me, but one life-saving thing I found was the ability to change an entire layer to whatever color you want. Because I think my drawings look way better with colored outlines. So I'm doing that and simulating graphite pencil.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
The brush engines and these other programs are far better than what I have experienced in Adobe Flash, even though they've made some improvements over the years.
Photoshop.
In Photoshop as well. What I'm currently using now, which I do enjoy, is a program called TV Paint.
Yes.
And TV Paint is made specifically for getting that traditional kind of hand-drawn look. So your drawings are actually freed up from using vectors and motion tweens, or just futzing with your line art and trying to smoothen it out stroke by stroke. This program I call TV Paint the Clip Studio of animation programs. And Clip Studio even has an animation program built into it, but I think TV Paint has its layering system much better because you don't have to really bounce between folders all that much, and you can scrub through your audio frame by frame in case you need to do any lip syncing after the fact. The results have been fantastic, I think.
That's so cool. Isn't it cool when you have those little breakthroughs like that?
Yeah. So I was so depressed for a while because I was like, even when a teaser came out, and a teaser, I mean, based on what other people are saying, that's usually my gauge. Like I'm confident to a degree in my work, but I do try and listen to what other people say. And it's gotten a lot of great praise, but it is very stiff, I've found. So when I look at the teaser now, and even though it is great, and I look at my animations in TV Paint, I'm like, this is leagues better. I'm having a great time, actually.
Yeah, I was kind of finding that with my drawings in Clip Studio. I'm like, oh, technology and my choice of software was kind of holding me back to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nice little discovery, like the shackles coming off.
Yeah, so the weighted shackles, the weighted wrist braces,
the inhibitor rings.
Yeah. So I felt a lot better about my art when I was able to like freely like draw a little more loosely instead of like very rigidly as I was used to in Adobe Flash and other programs. That is to say that the tool doesn't make the artist, but it does help you. But using the right tool for the job can improve your skill set a bit more. Right. So there's been that. That is to say, I've gotten a lot farther in my animation for this project. But another thing I found that was kind of holding me back a little bit more was how I was organizing the project. So the Will of Monsters, whenever I hand out assignments, I just hand them out either via email or like a Google Doc and be like, here's the shot list in Google Doc, or go by this Google Doc or that Google Doc or what have you. And if you need to refer to the animatic, here are the time codes. And I just sent that as email. And that can work. But it's also very disorganized. And when you have like I don't want to call it very disorganized, but for me, it was hard to keep track after a long period of time. After working on a particular project for so long, you kind of need to make your assignments a little bit more consolidated. So it'll be easier for everyone to see things visually if there's more than one or two people working on a project.
A clear vision.
So I hate Excel sheets so much. I hate them, but I couldn't get away from it. So I had to do something. I just didn't want to do like Microsoft spreadsheets or Google Sheets or whatever. I wound up finding this project manager software called Airtable. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to customize tasks and projects and certain variables to a point where other people can view them, they can check them off. You can assign different projects according to their needs. It's very flexible. There's a wide variety of views and tables that you can come up with, so you can schedule out your tasks, or you can see which tasks are overlapping if you use a paid version. The version of Airtable I'm using is very basic. It's the free version, and I've been able to map out the entire film and all the storyboard revisions I need to make. There are a ton. And all the background designs that I need to make. And there are more than a ton there. So
we've said it before and we'll say it again. Animation's hard as balls.
Animation's hard as balls. And my project is extremely ambitious. And and having a visual clue as to see how your project is doing
helps.
It does help. But I have to admit, seeing it all laid out before me and seeing all these shots that have been unassigned and marked unassigned, I'm like, oh no, what have I done?
What have I created? What is this monstrosity?
Yeah, but it has helped a lot, and I do think that it's far easier for me to keep track of things with a legit project manager than I was without it.
Nice.
So this is a long way of saying my animation has gotten a lot better. My project management has gotten a lot better. The project has gotten a great deal more attention, and I'm happy for it. It's still a long ways to go. We still have a lot of work to do, but I'm pleased with the progress that we have made.
That is so cool. I did want to ask, because technically saw it in some form. I was lucky enough, you showed me a animatic version of it back when we did that previous recording. Is that still the same script and storyboards you're intending to go with, or have there been some big changes?
There have been some significant changes to it. There are storyboards that have been needed revised. There are lines that needed changing. By and large, the story is still the same.
But a lot of beats, individual moments have changed.
Yeah, a lot of beats and individual moments needed to be changed. There are some shots that need to be either rearranged or redone or recontextualized. I'm not going to say it's going to look like an entirely different film, but it'll look far better and more put together than you've remembered it when you last saw the animatic.
I'm excited because I love the animatic.
Yeah, I'm glad. Thank you.
You got something really special there.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, so we've got because like I said, I'm doing the timing. Do you want to kick off any particular questions about Spacious?
Les, you doubt my talents? I'm hurt.
Well, only because let's face it, you and I both know that when you talk big and can't back it up, that can sometimes make things way worse.
The key word there being sometimes.
So how's that going? I've noticed that your animation quality has gotten better as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of sketch practice, and I'll start off by saying that the Wario collab is still going because we got the rest of the cutscenes to do, and I saw you comment on and share my Orbulon shot, so thank you for that. That one, I really challenged myself because I was like, no puppet rigs. This alien's going to be completely old school, hand drawn, frame by frame. And I picked a bad design to do something like that at such a low experience level because he's such a weird layout in that game.
He is, but at the same time, he looks really good in how you animated him.
Yeah, I think it helps that it's one of my favorite characters from one of my favorite games.
Cool.
And I stuck in a bunch of piggy references, including steamed hams, because he drops burger these hams because he's a dummy alien who doesn't get his beef. But Spacious is now granted. Spacious is still going to be primarily puppet rigs because I want to do this. Is in a case where I want it to be a one-off short one. Each one's going to be like 10 minutes, and I want to keep doing this for years, like an ongoing series, like an Ed's World or a lower budget Bevy pop layout.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to do hand drawn for key moments. For like, I know that there's a part with this. So the first episode is full. Since we did the last talking about it, I did put out the test short that I mentioned in early 2018. Since then, a lot of the sets have stayed the same. The main voice cast has stayed the same, but the characters have all been redesigned because my art styles kept changing, and I kept going back and gradually rethinking them. And I want to, because you have a Twitter for Will of Monsters. Can you name drop it actually?
Yeah, the Twitter for Will of Monsters is just Will of Monsters. So that's WILLOFMONSTERS.
Nice. I definitely intend to start one for Spacious, but I want to have a little more to go off of. I was basically getting into full production right when COVID and a bunch of personal setbacks happened, so real life had to take priority for about a year.
Sure.
But the cool thing is the first episode is fully written and voice recorded. So I'm challenging myself with this series because unlike what I've done before, I'm like, I want to fully storyboard this. Both for experience, because I want to try and learn a bunch of skills if I ever want to be involved professionally. And because it'll help the final product. And I want to get in touch with people who have already provide the voices and apologizing for the pause, explaining why in broad terms. And I want to send them like a fully animated scene and a fully storyboarded scene to show them how it's coming along and how it's resuming life and that it's not a dead project. I'm also, I think I said in the past, I was grateful for for all the actors. We got some great people on the side, supporting cast. But the two main actors have really been doing some amazing stuff lately. I mentioned PM Seymour, who's voicing Jed and the Roscoe the Robot. One, he's no longer a he, he's a they. Two, they've built a really sizable audience online, continue to work in various games and indie projects and anime. I know they're in Food Wars, which has a pretty big audience. And Kaylee Mills, who voices the sisters, Leslie and Kiki. I remember back when I was saying about it, like she was kind of early in her career, so I was like, she's in something called Occultic 9. But now I can say she's Amelia in ReZero. She's Misako in River City Girls. She's a character in Kakarugoi that I don't know the name of, but I really want to watch that show. So like, it's been cool seeing them develop amazing talents and filmography, and still, as far as I know, being willing to be a part of this and bring these characters to life. So thanks to you guys.
That's rad, dude.
Yeah, and so just beyond that, another audio benefit is I found this service that I could join up of on YouTube for YouTube and other sites called Epidemic Sound. Kind of an unfortunate name right now, but it could be worse because a pandemic and epidemic are very different things. Do you remember when I said I would love to have like not just like music but like vocal backing tracks for ambience and stuff? And I was kind of influenced by revisiting the Raccoons of all shows.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, because it kind of just adds something really cool to it. It's different from being a musical, even though we're going to get to a very good musical later on. But Epidemic Sound has a bunch of royalty-free but very good sounding tracks, instrumental and vocal of all sorts, and I can license them to use for stuff on YouTube and presumably other sites like Newgrounds. So I've gone from one generic instrumental for a montage scene to a really cool like synth pop song. I think it's going to help add some character to it. But there are a couple goals I have with this show. So one, I hope people can become genuinely attached to its forward leads. They all have unique goals, past, flaws, and strengths. I also want to, over time, take the audience to like a really interesting and fantastic other world. The first episode, I'm not trying to tackle all that. It's going to be kind of an adventure of the day with these four to iron them out and practice the animation and stuff like that and writing. But I want to be able to introduce bigger conflicts, themes, and like genuine pathos and heartbreaks and victories for these characters and their world. Like, I haven't even told anyone about the villains yet, and I'm going to leave it at that because I'm hyped to show people this. And honestly, the show we're going to talk about to round this episode out is going to be, I think, a big example of something I'm going for with this because holy shit. And I also just want to say, because we're kind of running low on time for it, but even if you were only introduced to this idea back in that 2017 episode, I know this has been a long, long time coming, and I apologize from the bottom of my heart if you've been interested in this. And same goes for the Wario cartoons, because I want to do more of that as well, and I'm actually writing the script for the next Wario as well. I'll probably be I'm doing my first commissioned animation right now, but after that I'm going to be ping pong between those two personal projects. But I've spent so much time inactive and doing other things in life, trying to find myself, only to realize I was on the right path years ago, and no point dwelling on the past, only look forward to the future. So do you have any other questions about Spacious or observations or whatever?
Well, you practically answered everything I was about to ask about the voice actors. You've already talked about the software that you're using for it, which is
Toon Boom Harmony. Oh, I will say I'm incorporating Clip Studio because I decided to try and draw all the backgrounds in it with like a slightly different style. Like, have you ever noticed? I say this ever noticed, but we're animation geeks. I've really come to appreciate why you should do colored outlines for your background and black outlines for your characters for emphasis.
Yeah.
For people who don't know the technicalities, it helps them be more distinguishable from each other and let you know where your attention should lie.
Yeah, it helps provide contrast.
Contrast, focus, but also staging. Like, I'm practicing the rule of threes in background and shots as well. Because I'm starting to study cinematography and script. I'm just trying to practice all the stuff that goes into like NND 2D production and see where my strengths lay. And even beyond that, just keep working on this because this means so much to me. We each have. Go ahead.
I was about to say, I'm glad there's this. We're meandering a bit.
It's okay.
So there is a really good storyboarding, not tutorial, but set of guides out there. It's let's see. I think it's by Mike Maloney.
Let me see.
No, it's by Nick Paris. I'm sorry. So there's this really good TV story, learning how to storyboard PDF book by Nick Paris out there, and I can share it with you because he goes over basics like camera, rule of thirds, perspective, how to use a grid, why those grids are important. There's a lot of stuff in here, and it's several pages long. So I'd be willing to send that to you if you want to take a look at it.
And on that note, Crony is beeping. So
okay. That's cute.
Yeah, it's funny. Crony, shut up. All right. So good note to end on that part on it. But now let us begin our two bigger topics. Let me press Crony's timer right here. I say that like I know her, like she's my holographic wife. Going back to, I don't want a holographic wife, and I know you don't either.
I feel like it's that move. God, we're doing that bit.
Oh,
again,
her.
Yeah, her.
but it's the more realistic version is in ScarJo. It's an anime girl.
Yeah.
Do you mean to tell me that you could have taken your hand out of that cuff at any time?
No, not at any time. Only when it was funny.
Come on!
Hi, Nanny. Where's your sense of humor?
He always is funny, or only on days when he's wanted for murder?
I want to say, funny thing, so we're tackling two pretty big topics today for our main things in a short span of time, but I think we still can find plenty to say. Technically, I was the one who brought these both up for this episode, but I brought them up because of something you had said in this case, and your overall history of fandom with the second. Because if you go back to, I want to say, episode 10 or so, early in this run, we did my favorite movie ever, which is The Iron Giant. And I decided to be like, I know some of Chris's influence, but I just asked you off the top of my head, like, Chris, what is your favorite movie? And you were very, without missing a beat, was like, Who Framed Roger Rabbit? I'm like, great movie, let's do that someday. And now we're doing Roger Rabbit. So to kick things off, Chris, since this movie means a lot to you, what was your initial history with it?
My initial history was with that movie was my parents I'm guessing my parents wanted me to sit down and watch something, so I'll be out of their hair. Sure. So they just turned on Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and I was like, what, 7, 8 at the time? Yeah. And by God, like, okay, so we look at Who Framed Roger Rabbit now, and it looks impressive still. Yeah. But I mean, it doesn't really hold a candle to like all the really big CG live action animated stuff.
That's the thing. It's not going for that. It's going for old school. This is like hand drawn ink and paint animation.
Yeah, at the time it was doing. I know a lot of people who review this movie are going at the time, but yeah, that does make a difference because at the time there wasn't a lot of. There wasn't really a lot of big budget things that were merging live action and animation together.
Not on this level. You'd have little like brief shots and like some Disney stuff, but it was like very still frames. They weren't directly interacting with each other. This was going for something.
This was a huge film. Like even at the time, people within Hollywood were like, "We're not sure if this thing is going to make it." There are these weird rules that both animation companies, MGM and Disney, are fighting back and forth, and Warner Brothers are going back and forth with. We don't know what this rabbit character is going to be, at least from the paparazzi standpoint. They kept it was a shit show from the outside looking in, and then when the movie came out, it was an explosion of creativity. At least to me, it was, because at the time I was thinking like all this stuff was actually happening. Cartoons are real. I say when I was 8 years old.
I'm gonna walk outside and look for some. Maybe it's been in front of me all along.
That's exactly what I was doing. I was such a little insane prick as a kid.
That's not being a prick. That's having imagination.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. So back then, I lived in a neighborhood where no one was excited about cartoons as I was. So when teachers saw me acting like a goof in class, they expected me to be very polite and very respectful and to be very quiet. But instead, I'm over here jumping up and down like fucking Daffy Duck off the walls because like the mere mention of anything related to cartoons got me pumped as a kid, got me hyped, and it's all because of Roger Rabbit, because of that insane merger between live action and animation.
Your teachers, Chris, sound like they just really need to laugh.
They really did. They really did need to laugh. they really needed a Roger Rabbit in their lives.
They really did. But speaking of the, go ahead.
I was going to get into something a little personal, but we don't need to get into it.
Okay, but I will say, even though Roger is the title character of this is Bob Hoskins' movie.
Yeah, that's exactly
right. Rest his soul, has continued to get a lot of praise for it. It's not just the acting in general, but that so much of it, he's talking to no one.
Mm-hmm.
And he's kind of having to be the straight man to a lot of crazy and silly stuff. And he both does a wonderful job, like I said, playing off the characters, and in general, like I noticed on this playthrough. Yeah, I played it. No, on this watch through, the part where he stops at the tunnel that goes in Toontown, and it's like when he has this man up moment, they do like a dramatic zoom in, and there's like minutia, like little eyelid twitches. Like he really committed to this.
Yeah, he is in the moment for better or worse. I mean, there were a lot of times when Bob Hoskins will go on to say like he would like see the rabbit from time to time. Yeah. Just because of how deeply he ingrained himself in the film. And I forgot what he died of, but it was essentially like
he had Alzheimer's beforehand.
Yeah,
I don't know if that it's a shame.
I'm sure I'm not. I don't know enough about science to say whether or not Roger Rabbit did him in, but
Jesus, man.
No. I'm not saying. God, that did come off as wrong. I'm sorry.
This movie killed him.
No, but there were times when he was saying when he said that he would bring the rabbit home with him, like mentally, like it would just be there, and he would have like discussions with like his son or his nephew or something. I remember an interview that was saying something alluding to that quote.
So kind of practicing being in character even when he wasn't filming.
Well, even when he wasn't filming, he kind of. There are times when I hear about actors who inadvertently go back into their role because they're so deep into it, right? That like it's hard for them to kind of get away from the role that they've kind of been.
Or you have method actors like Daniel Day-Lewis who just stay that way. Yeah.
So I kind of, when Bob Hoskins talks about like, bringing the rabbit home with him, I kind of believe him in saying that, in that there are times when I was young, I was like, holy shit, like I would love to see these cartoon characters, not knowing just how socially detrimental that can be growing up in the real world.
Sure.
So this movie to me always felt like it was reaching beyond the screen to me. And fooling me into believing that there are other things and beings in this world that have their own set of rules that operate totally different from how I operate.
Even their own little section of the world.
It was I was 9. I believed that there was an actual Toontown somewhere, and it just had to find it. It's somewhere underneath this couch.
Maybe this tunnel.
But this is a long-winded way of saying that that is the movie that got me started on the path I am now.
It was your Iron Giant, basically.
Yeah, it's very expensive, but that's where I am right now.
You didn't choose the life. The life chose you. Or
the life chose me.
I don't know. Roger chose you. But I want to say, I'll just say real quick, I think I saw this movie once as a kid. I wish I had seen it more, but my only memory is of watching it at like age 5 or 6 at my uncle's and being fucking terrified by Judge Doom's reveal.
Yep, that was.
It's so good, and
it's very frightening and very effective.
Never has a chipmunk voice been so intimidating.
It really is, isn't it?
He's shrieking it like just like this, and it sounds like a serial killer. And I also cannot unsee it now because I remember we joked about that in our Christmas tree episode, and you referred to the knives as titty rockets.
They were titty rockets.
I can't unsee it now. Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
But Christopher Lloyd is also a lot of fun in this. But there are a lot of, I wanted to say, because this is Robert Zemeckis at the top of his game. Like he's just not the same director he used to be. I tried watching his Witches remake and man, wasn't feeling it. But coming at this, like I guess this is in between Back to the Future and its sequels, and you can definitely see touches that it's the same director. Like, I wrote them down. One, I feel like there's a certain level of grit and placement to its settings. There are like slightly exaggerated moments even with the live action characters, but it kind of helps come up with this very specific reality he's going for. Small moments and running gags that set up big payoffs. Like you might start thinking like, oh, they're gonna laugh themselves to death. That's just a silly that would happen. Oh no, that helps save the day. It's kind of like how Back to the Future sets the stage before Marty time travels with a bunch of stuff you're gonna see later. And what's the last one I had here? Oh, love of the retro.
Because the love of the what?
Love of the retro. Like stuff that even at the time was retro, because so much of the like its main tunes may be made up, but their designs and mannerisms and then the background characters, like it's clear how much people making this grew up on like vintage Disney and Looney Tunes and MGM and all that, because of who you see, how they act, how they move. And there's other cool stuff, like this is one of Mel Blanc's last performances as the Looney Tunes guy. He died like a year or two afterwards.
Yeah, that was rough.
Well, I mean, he had a good run.
He did, but it was still like very surprising, right? Like I remember I remember being a kid knowing when he died. Like,
I was too young for that. I was like 3.
It was shortly after the Jetsons movie.
Yes, they had to re-record some of his dialogue because for Spacely. Same thing happened with George Jetson's voice died recording that movie.
Wow.
Yeah, Andrea Romano voice directed it. She talked about it in an interview. Just gets a cursed movie. But I also let's also talk about, like, even though they're the main characters, like, how mind-blowing was it to see Donald and Daffy together, or Mickey and Bugs talking to each other and stuff like that? Like, I think because Spielberg produced, like, he was the one with the clout to make that happen.
It was mind-blowing in a way where, like, if this was like, all right, so everyone lost their shit when Michael Jordan started playing basketball with Bugs Bunny, right?
Yeah, like, we'll see how much we lose our shit with LeBron.
Yeah, well, I mean, now it's kind of expected because companies do crossovers all the time.
Right.
Like you can expect I just got done with a conversation with someone else saying that the Avengers is its own crossover universe. Like, you have several one-off characters have their own one-off movie, and then they all cross over.
Yeah, and then some of those characters get their own shows now.
Yeah, so that was kind of my impetus. That was my introduction to that feeling. Like of course cartoons go to the same town
and same movie studio to shoot their cartoons. Yes, and they don't get their lines wrong. They get they mix their stars up with birds.
Yeah, to me as a kid, I was like, that makes sense. They're just actors.
Yeah, yeah. There's a couple other. I remember Looney Tunes Back in Action also went with that kind of world and actors thing too. But Roger Rabbit, I think, was the one that kind of solidified it.
Yeah, it definitely did. So that kind of seeing Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse skydive together was great. Seeing Daffy Duck and Donald blew my up. I think it's a stronger scene.
That's the highlight for me, yeah, because they really let those two go at it, because Bugs is a smart aleck, but Mickey's kind of like, the nice guy underdog. He's not going to provoke anyone. Daffy and Donald, you get on their bad side, they'll let loose.
Back in the day, Daffy and Donald were just pure sociopaths. I think, so the new DuckTales kind of like dads Donald up a bit
or
more.
Uncles him up, yeah.
Yeah, uncles. Well, I mean, he basically raised the triplets, so they stopped making Uncle Donald the guy who like
blows his top,
grows devil horns and starts chasing the nephew.
That's right. Yeah, he did do that once.
and nowadays he's the I don't want to say the cool uncle, but yeah, they kind of dadded him up a bit, and they were like, yeah, I mean, he's like he wants to be there for his boys. He always calls them the boys or his boys or
yeah, but he's not with the boys in this. He's
no
trying to outplay this other crazy duck.
Back in the day, those two were murderers, and I loved it.
I mean, Daffy's change is even more like noticeable. I'm sure, like, it's documented how like he originally was like a very kooky, kind of lighthearted guy, and then he became like the cynical guy getting screwed over. Like the Chuck Jones era, there's a very clear divide in Daffy, and the one in this is the first.
Yeah, Daffy definitely was more in tune with his roots in that moment in the movie. Nowadays, he's kind of like he's the super chatty kind of know-it-all sociopathic idiot that plays at least in the Looney Tunes show and the new Looney Tunes.
I was gonna say,
cartoons. Yeah, and the new Looney Tunes cartoons that are out now, he's more back to his roots. Like
that whole show, the art design is back to like the Bob Clampett era. It's very clear they're trying something different in terms of retro. I also want to say something that always throws me in that duel is like, when did Daffy have locks of hair? That's new.
Yeah. It's always like those little touches that the animators just did just to have fun.
Well, that's the thing. This movie is gorgeous, both live action and the animation. Like, I think it's, I think we've touched on Richard Williams in the past, R.I.P., but this was kind of his most successful project. It wasn't the most personal. That was Thief and the Cobbler, but like, man, this guy and his crew they got it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like almost all on ones. It's they had to incorporate like these turnarounds, these pans, stuff they didn't even have to do. Like when Eddie is hacksawing the handcuffs, he hits a swinging light. They have to animate the light swinging back and forth across Roger on top of his zoom in and moving.
Yeah. God, that's so much work.
This is what I'm talking about in terms of the effect it had on you. It's because they put in this work. They had the money, they had the clout, they had the talent. It was kind of this serendipitous production.
All right, so back then as a kid, I would kind of like geek out at like, oh boy, Roger Rabbit like hopped up on Eddie Valiant's back or on his chest, and he's telling him about the weasels who are coming to kill him.
Yeah.
And now as an adult who does animation, I'm like, oh my God, that's a lot of work.
Because they had to make objects change, like be picked up, deform the clothes, have a car being driven by tunes, stuff like that. Also, you mentioned the weasels. Can I just say that I love the gangster weasel designs?
Oh, they're great.
You have the straitjacket one, the t-shirt and beanie dopey one. Those are fun. But you have these three like G-Man gear. They look legit slick, and the animation in the lead one is like some of the best in the movie. Like when he's combing around Eddie's apartment, it's just so smooth. Also, his voice actor passed a few months ago.
Oh, that's
R.I.P. David Lander. Me getting geeky for a second though. His daughter's a voice actress now. She's Terra in Final Fantasy stuff, and Kinsey in Saints Row, which I love.
Sweet.
So go ahead.
As an adult watching Roger Rabbit and looking back at all those frames of animation, and we all hear the stories about how Disney and Warner Brothers and MGM had to like do the same amount of frames for every scene,
particularly Mickey and Donald. I mean, Mickey and Bugs.
And Bugs. We all hear about those stories, but I remember talking. I may have told this story before, but I remember speaking with an animator from Roger Rabbit, and I was saying I gave him compliments on this on his work, and he had this 500-mile stare as he said. I think it was Andreas Deja.
You talked to him?
I did. He came to AI for a while.
Wow.
He spoke at AI, and they were showing off Bambi, and he walked out just to kind of chill out because I guess he was kind of tired of looking at it or whatever. But he was talking with me and some friends at the time, and I think for his work on Roger Rabbit, and he had the Vietnam stare, and he was saying there were times when we had gotten the buttons wrong on Roger,
and they said go back and do it again.
So that means I had to go back and redo all the buttons. And a lot of those shots are on ones because of all the camera moves that they do. Yep. So they had to do all those buttons several times over.
That is such a Richard Williams story, because I know if you get like Thief and the Cobbler was full of that. Do you know about the cards shot in that?
Yes.
So the villain in that it's this rhyming guy played by Vincent Price, and he's boasting about like, these people are like playing cards, and I control the decks, and he's like flipping like feet apart a whole deck of cards, and somebody meticulously animated it, and then they showed it to Richard Williams, and he said, "You had a duplicate of this one card. Do it all again."
Oh my God!
It's a step too far, I think, in that the card thing. Button, maybe a card. That's who cares about that? But still, it shows the dedication.
It shows dedication. It shows how far we've come in animation, because now animators are like, let's have some forethought in how we design our characters and the things that they do, so we don't have to animate those specific things 100 times over.
Sometimes I actually have another funny quote about that from a lesser but still well animated movie, A Crazy Nights. Apparently, if you watch behind the scenes of that, because it's winter and everybody's wearing coats, at some point early in the design process, somebody looked at a coat and said, "I know people usually have 3 buttons, but let's take it down to 2 because each button's a $10,000 button."
Oh wow, that makes sense. Actually,
it wouldn't surprise me if that became like a code phrase among the crew. Like, well, that would be a $10,000 button. And I know that like CG can make some of this easier since you don't have to redraw it, but there's still a lot of motion and texture and appeal stuff. It's its own can of worms, and you got to take factors into it.
That's exactly right.
Every form of animation comes with its own perks and valleys and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I know we're talking a lot about the technicalities of this, but I also got to say this is a very well-structured story and character arc for Eddie Valiant.
It is.
It's
Absolutely.
a loving tribute to both animation and I haven't seen a lot of noir, but it's definitely like I've seen something like Chinatown, and there's a very similar thing with it's actually this big corporation that's going for that. I think even if we're talking animation, Rango was kind of a tribute to that with the villain spot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I will also say, because of it's being set clearly in post-war Los Angeles, the mid-40s, because I haven't seen much noir, and I obviously didn't live in the 40s, as far as you know, the establishing exterior shots and jazzy background music gave me LA noir vibes more than anything. And I would totally play a prequel action-adventure game where you're the Valiant brothers solving toon crimes and mysteries and pressing X to doubt Elmer Fudd.
Oh, that's cute. I would like that too, actually.
It'd be like Sleep Nightmare again, but that's actually one of the reasons that they never did any sort of sequel was that, and Spielberg been busy. But I also think, even if the sequel is good, it would kind of cheapen the value of this. So it's kind of blessing in disguise.
It has to stand as its own thing, I think.
Yeah.
There are rumors, if not like full-on confirmations that a sequel or a remake is in development.
It's been in development for years, but I just don't know at this point.
I don't know at this point either, and I hope I'm not. We don't need it. We don't need it.
And like I said, Robert Zemeckis isn't the filmmaker he used to be. I'd rather not.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
We've still got some time left, so let me just say, let's talk about the elephant in the room. I think it hit me on this viewing why I never found Jessica Rabbit as attractive as so many others do.
What's that?
So it's all comes down to the face. Her nose is basically a flat area with two nostrils, and it makes her look kind of like an alien, except when she's from the side. Then she looks pretty cool.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
But she's still a fun character. And who is it? Kathleen Freeman doing the voice?
I
believe
don't
so.
know, actually.
Yeah, they got.
Checked on who.
She was the one. I'm gonna look it up. She was the one who they got like a Hollywood actor for, because like Charles Fleischer, the voice of Roger, is primarily a voice actor for a lot of the same, the existing characters. They got whoever was playing them at the time. I think the one thing I find funny is that when Droopy shows up as the elevator bellhop, that's Richard Williams.
Yeah, that's Richard Williams.
Going down.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. That's pretty good, actually.
He did a good Droopy, yeah.
Yeah, I never knew that.
Yeah, there were a couple. Let me see. Yeah, it was Kathleen Turner. She was uncredited, but yeah. But I'd also say that in terms of character, I think Eddie's a great character. Roger is great since he doesn't have enough of an arc to be a main character, but he really works for helping move Eddie along. I do think Jessica is pretty on the straight and narrow through the movie. She cares about Roger. I always like when she legitimately freaks out at the vet, it's death. But I'm like, more of that. She's kind of sticking to the femme fatale thing a bit too hard, and I think for being a cartoon, she could have some more funny moments.
That's fair. I honestly think that the cartoons are more more along the lines of set pieces and supporting cast, than they are full on having the character dynamics that we nowadays look for in animation.
Yes, like I said, they're sticking to the format and style of those old shorts. They're we aren't having some deep thing. Roger makes it very clear our purpose is to make people laugh. One of my favorite parts is when he breaks all the cuffs. You couldn't know that all along? No, only when it was funny.
Only when it was funny. They have their own internal set of rules that makes them work. So when it comes to this specific film, and this specific film has its own lines, has its own rules and obligations that it needs to stick to. Back in those days, cartoons were, I don't want to say they were only funny and only for the purpose of...
No, there was experimental stuff too.
Yeah, but these days, you can turn left and sneeze and you'll find dramatic cartoons.
We're going to get into one.
Yeah. So it's so it kind of makes sense that I'm not trying to poo-poo your point saying that that Roger Rabbit doesn't have a lot of mythos or character arcing, because
I wasn't saying Jessica needs to have an arc. I just wish she had more variety in her personality.
Okay. No, that is fair. I just wanted to hone in on the fact that back then, that's just what cartoons were.
Right.
I definitely would appreciate an arc. Don't get me wrong. Like anything that makes these characters better would be greatly appreciated. Because I do love that movie, and I wish that's
the one thing they could do if they did a sequel, but I don't want to risk them screwing other stuff up.
Yeah. Another thing that I really enjoyed about the film was the commitment to like in character gags or like cartoon rules, such as like being able to sing on command. Like when Christopher Lloyd he interrogates the entire bar, right? And he brings in
that Harvey gag went right over my head for years.
He brings in the vat. He demonstrates to us, the audience, how the dip works.
Okay, I gotta say, because everybody says it, that poor shoe did nothing wrong.
It didn't.
Shoe.
That shoe is dead now.
Very dead.
It's not fair.
No.
That scene.
But Doom is a bastard.
Yeah, that scene demonstrates that one, Doom is a bastard, and that two, Toons can die.
Yeah, there's a legit threat to them now.
Yeah, they can die horrible deaths. But they also still have to adhere to these rules that puts them in trouble, such as shave and a haircut. And that shit made me lull so hard as a kid.
The kicker for me is the build-up, because he's just doing it, and for a little while you're like, what's the point? And it's focused on him, like, I don't know what he's doing, and he turns around and Roger is about to burst.
Robert's about to burst. And as a kid, I was like, so I'd never heard of the shave and a haircut bit. I
knew the song, the rhythm, but not the name.
Yeah. So when that happened, I was like, wow, what is this? And Roger just explodes out the wall.
Like it's Kool-Aid Man.
I was like, he's Kool-Aid Man. He just Kool-Aid Man out the wall. Oh God, it was okay. So he has that bit. But I got ahead of myself with that. That's how ingrained this movie is in my head. So he has this gigantic song number.
Yes.
Where like the record player goes on repeat and he starts like
dishes. No pain.
He starts breaking the dishes, and as an adult, I'm like, that costs money, Roger.
Yeah.
No,
you have Dolores, I think it's her name, that he's rightfully freaking out like, hey.
Stop, please. You're going to put this poor woman out of business.
And you noticed the in-joke about what the song was, right?
What was the in-joke?
Did the melody sound familiar to you?
It's the Merry Melodies theme, right?
Yeah. So it's originally a song called The Merry-Go-Round Broke Down, and that's why Judge Doom is looking at what they're playing and is like, oh, quite a song for a loony. He says like for a loony bunch or something, and it's a little Easter egg that would probably go over most people's heads.
That went over my head as a child and it shouldn't have, because I was watching Looney Tune cartoons. But I was just
not everybody knows the name of that song. That's a deep cut name.
Yeah. So I can't describe just how much of an impact that movie had for me, because it was just something that my dad picked up from like Errol's or something. Like
Errol's. Wow.
Before Blockbuster, Errol's was the place to go for like VHS.
There was one near me that I think existed for a while alongside another mom and pop shop. Then it got bought out by Blockbuster, and both those coexisted for a while.
Yeah. So
also, I recommend the last Blockbuster. That's a fun documentary.
God, I will check that out at some point. My dad gets me Roger Rabbit, sits me down, and we watch it, and it's a most amazing experience for me. Like, it opened my eyes both in the best way and the worst way, because it causes me because I'm acting out in school because I love these fucking cartoons so much, and teachers don't know how to settle me down, so they're complaining to my parents and whatnot, and they start. My teachers have to find a way, or like. They aggressively recommend a psychiatrist. And so the psychiatrist, sits me down for a few weeks, and we talk about, my feelings and shit. And after a couple of weeks, he comes back to my parents, both my dad and my grandmother, who were taking care of me at the time. And he's like, so he's just a kid. That's it.
That's my diagnosis. I diagnosed this kid with being a kid.
Is this being a kid? So so we got our little laughs, and we were able to like.
Everybody needs to laugh.
We were able to tell the teachers to fuck off a little bit because they were very like, you need to put this kid on medication or whatever. That sounds like, oh, okay.
Speaking as someone who's been on meds, it's not the best thing.
It may not be. It's not a catch-all solution, right?
No.
So it's like, and it's a lot of trial and error because you have to find the right meds, make sure you have the right person that's telling you to get on the right meds and find the right dosage.
Yep.
And you can't. So for teachers to just say that, and for there not to be a specific reason for to even recommend that aside from your child's being disruptive is very irresponsible. And as I got older, I kind of realized just how bad that was, just because like all I was doing was just liking the stuff that I loved. That's it. And yeah, there were times where I was being disruptive in class, but as a teacher, it's your job to kind of keep me in check,
right? And
make it so that you're helping me pass instead of blaming my being a kid for being a kid, you know? So it's like...
I like that our discussion of Who Framed Roger Rabbit has turned into a critique of the American education system.
Oh God, it has.
It all connects!
It connects for me.
Yeah,
so,
that's just perfectly valid.
In a lot of ways, like that movie... because of its merging of real life and cartoon realities, made me believe that cartoons actually exist, and allowed me to and inspired me to act as zany and as hyper as I could as a child, because as a child that's what you do when you have a lot of energy.
Can't really Max, Baloney in your slacks.
I would sing that a lot.
Same.
I would often get in trouble for it.
I got to the point where my parents knew the lyrics, and my dad still quotes it in the Freakazoid theme.
Ah, that's cool. So, it was odd at first having elementary school and middle school teachers kind of give me shit for that.
You just had to be yourself.
But the clue or the solution to that wasn't to discipline me ad nauseum or to discipline me at every chance. It was to find a creative outlet so I can either burn off this energy or express it in a way that was that helped me be functional. So very early on, I got involved in acting classes.
Oh, nice.
So whether or not I was doing stuff on stage at school or going to legit acting classes as like just a young kid, like that kind of helped me kind of refine a lot of my outbursts as a stupid, dumb kid who liked cartoons too much.
And now you're able to do voices in your own stuff as a kid, as an adult who likes cartoons too much.
Well, now it makes more sense, right? Because all this is just entertainment. All this is just being able to express yourself in an entertaining filmmaking sort of way.
Yeah.
So Roger Rabbit in ways that I can describe, but it takes too long for me to describe, but are still logical and in still very grown-up ways that I can describe.
I do want to say something, like, because we're running a little on time for this, but
Gotcha.
Something I want to say, kind of looking at this movie, like we talked about how animation has changed and such, and the fact that this is a real love letter to both noir, but also that kind of initial like 30s to 50s golden age of theatrical shorts.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you could focus on this topic and make something on this scale today. Because when you look at it, like the reruns and distribution of these old cartoons and stuff, like we had VHS and broadcast TV, it hasn't really translated as prominently in the era of streaming and like Zoomers. So, and like outside of the core Looney Tunes and Mickey crew, there are a lot of icons here that are becoming like lost to time.
Yeah. There's a lot of characters here that you really don't see too often.
There's some I barely know anything about. Like, I only recently found out that Lena Hyena, like that's an actual character. I thought she was just like a gag made up for the movie.
I actually did not know that she was a character.
Yeah, I think she was obscure even for the time.
Wow.
Oh, and I will say one of my favorite quick jokes is how Betty Boop is now a waitress because the era of color has kind of made black and white only ones fall by the wayside, which is kind of a parallel to how the Fleischers ditched her for Popeye.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, that is a definite like callback because you don't really see you didn't see a lot of Betty Boop even back then.
Also, one of the last times her voice actress did it as well.
Oh wow!
Yeah, she was also Olive Oyl and one of the relatives in National Lampoon's Christmas.
Jeez, that's wild, dude.
Yeah, funny deep cuts like that. And then she has one of my favorite like joke lines when Jessica's introduced and Eddie's like, "She's married to Roger," and Betty responds, "I know, what a lucky gal."
Yeah, what a lucky girl. Like what does this dude have?
Well, I mean, Jessica says it. He makes me laugh. That's what matters to them.
Yep, that is what matters to them. There is so much that goes into this movie. Like all the hard work, all the insane bullshit that a lot of the animators had to deal with. I mean, a lot of the actors had to deal with too.
Yep. Cast, crew, animators, all of it.
I remember watching the interviews of the animators watching the animators commentary. And one of the animators had said that Bob Hoskins is one of the best and one of the greats of the time.
Sure.
And even then, they still had to cheat. Like they still had to cheat Roger because Bob's eye line was off for that one take.
Oh, so is this the one where he's hugging the wall?
Yes.
That's good. Well, it worked out for them that it's a scene where Roger is audibly and visibly stressed, so he's going to do stuff like try and make himself scarce. And because Eddie's looking a little higher up, they have Roger like stretch and squish against the wall, and it just, if you don't know it, then it's about the behind the scenes thing. It works.
Yeah, it made sense for the scene, so they were able to like use that kind of
fortunate
kind of
accident.
Yeah, the trick to kind of make it work.
And I will say, I know we brought Bob Hoskins up before. If I had ever met him and said I mainly knew him as Mario, he would probably just punch me in the face.
He would probably not want to talk to you.
I wouldn't blame him because that movie was a goddamn nightmare for him and everybody involved. Thank you, Corona. And on that note, let's save what we have and let's get to our main. Well, I guess we have two main topics today. We're giving them equal billing. 1 second.
Please stand by.
Actually, we'll just add real quick that because Chris recommended we just do some final thoughts. I really dig this movie. I did as a kid, other than being terrified of one part. But I think nowadays it's both a one-of-a-kind technical achievement and a really solid story and love letter to a bunch of things. And like I've said, it kind of has become its own sort of time capsule because a lot of its stuff it pays tribute to is not as big as it used to be. But for people our age, it still holds a lot of special value. And honestly, I think if you're a student of animation today, 2D or otherwise, you should check this out for some incredible technical and animation work. And Chris, anything you wanted to say to sum up your thoughts?
That's essentially the long and short of it. Like you said, everything I wanted to say, especially the part where it's worth studying from. I know there are animators today who don't really pay much attention to this film because the big stuff right now is anime. So that's usually like a lot of the inspiration that the newest wave of animators are pulling from. But there is still a lot to learn from in regards to that old age of animation.
Yep.
And I'm not talking Roger Rabbit. I'm talking like way beforehand, like the MGM stuff or the
Looney Tunes, Ray Melodies.
The Looney Tunes stuff, the Fleischer stuff, the Tex Avery stuff, Bob Clampett stuff. There's so much to comb through. Even there's a group of animators that broke off from Disney that made their own studio that were very they didn't do things as fluidly or as thoroughly, and they're very, I don't want to say they were cheap, but they were made less expensively. What is that called?
It wasn't UPA, was it?
It was UPA because they did like what, Gerald McBoyne?
Gerald McBoyne is the one I know. I've seen one offshore called Rudy Toot Toot that was really stylized.
Yeah, I remember that. So there's a reason why there is so all this is Western stuff, but there's stuff coming from Russia, there's stuff from France, there's animation from there's definitely animation from China and especially Japan, and a lot of those techniques and a lot of those workflows that are here today are because of all the work that was done way before Roger Rabbit. Roger Rabbit is just an amalgamation of all the Western stuff, all the Western stuff that have.
Yeah, it's been said people like the 9 Old Men at Disney were kind of creating an art form at the time. They had to pioneer stuff because nobody else was.
Yeah, but even since then, and everyone, I don't want to say everyone knows this, but it is no surprise that a lot of anime back in the old times were copying off of a lot of Disney stuff, even to the point of like borrowing the gigantic.
Tezuka got the big eyes from stuff like Bambi and Disney animals. Yeah,
yeah, that's a very Disney-fied look.
It's very cyclical.
So whenever I see people saying that, oh no, people are trying to Disney-fy Japan, and I'm like, well,
they already
did. Too late, bro.
Wait, it's been Disney-fied all along? Always has been.
Always has been. Click.
But yeah, go ahead. Final thoughts.
There's a lot to learn from. And I would say, like, please find a way to study, not just from anime, but also from a whole bunch of different sources.
Yeah, it would not hurt to get a bunch of different influences and shape, take your favorite pieces of each. Mm-hmm. That's what I try to do. All right, let's save this.
You're up against one of the Earth's greatest traffic technologies, the child safety lock.
No, how could you do this to me? The great unlovable paradox!
I want to start this discussion by saying I think you and me and probably many listeners we have as geeks or fans of certain things, I think we can all relate to the fact that as much as we want to as much as we do get attached to things, and as much as us cartoon or anime or media geeks want to be a part of every phenomenon, sometimes things just don't click with you. Sometimes things just aren't for you. Case in point, I watched like half the first season of Demon Slayer recently because that show's been a phenomenon. I'm like, this is gorgeous, but I'm bored. I'm sorry, this is not for me.
Fair.
Yeah, so case in point, sometimes you need to give things a little bit more of a longer shot to see them develop. Years ago, not back when it first premiered, but probably like midway through the run, I tried checking out Steven Universe's first season on Hulu, and I liked it, but I was not getting the hype. It was not particularly deep. It was not particularly, it had some neat, like, not thematic, but world-building elements to it, but I was seeing, like, this fandom pop up, this very intense fandom and these claims, and I was just like, it's good, but I'm just not seeing it. But as time passed, as more shows covered it, like Generation Animation devoted several episodes to it. You were on a couple, I believe.
I was.
And I basically decided to add this back onto my bucket list. Like, I think people say it gets better, so I want to give this another shot. So I can say now, having watched a lot of the main stuff, holy shit, is Steven Universe wonderful. This show, man, I was not ready for the way it started and where it ended up. It became it blossomed. Mm-hmm. So, what is your initial history with this? Did you watch it as it aired, basically, or fill me in?
So I remember I had just started my new job, right? So I was working at CACI at the time, and I was like watching. No, I got word that Steven Universe had gotten picked up as a show. So I started to see like the new key art, because I had seen the pilot like a couple years beforehand, and the pilot was great. I love the pilot, and then I saw the key art for it for the show itself.
I remember this controversy.
Yeah, and I was like, oh no, they changed the art. The Cal art style has.
Yeah. Oh, it's so simplified now.
Yeah, I was initially part of that stupid discourse until I started watching the show. And the first season didn't jive with me.
Yep.
I have to admit, like there were times like I only watched like the first slew of episodes from the hot dog episode, or Steven getting the cat turning into a bunch of shitty cats.
Kitty fingers.
Or the kitty fingers. And the stupid, I don't want to call it stupid, but the rose quartz cannon or whatever, and it was cute, but I wasn't getting it, right?
Like, it wasn't clicking.
It wasn't until like the Lapis Lazuli episodes happened where I was like, oh, something's happening.
Yep. Here. So for me, I like I said, when I checked this out, the world felt unique, but the plot not so much did. And look, there's sometimes you can identify a fatal flaw, and this show for me, what became one of its biggest strengths was its killing blow for me. Early Steven is annoying as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
I can sum up basically every early episode from the first like dozen or so like this. Steven has a thing that he turns into a running gag. He comes along with the gems and it's just a nuisance, but he keeps reminding them about this running gag. They also tell him stuff like, hey, don't pull that switch. And he responds, oh, but I got a cheeseburger backpack. Oh, I should pull the switch. Oh, did I mention my cheeseburger backpack? And his goddamn voice. I've never been so grateful that an actor hit puberty early on and they went a different direction. Because you know what it hits me that he sounds like early on? He sounds like Grounder from the Sonic cartoons, only as a kid, and he's the main character rather than side comic relief.
The funny thing is that they actually do a slight reference to how annoying he was, like towards the end of the series. He was like, hey guys, remember how I was really annoying? And I could feel everyone groan because like everyone watching that show at that point has basically grown with all the characters. They've seen like all the characters fuse.
Yes.
They know what the diamonds mean. They know what they know
the
what
different backgrounds and origins and conflicts each crystal gem has.
Yep. Mm-hmm. By that point, like they have seen not only Steven and the characters in his universe. They've not only seen all these characters grow, but they've seen the production grow. So when I first saw the show, first season, I wasn't really in love with the character designs, as a lot of people were not. But I didn't exactly stay with that discourse for too long. And I think it's because once the design started changing, that I started to warm up a bit. And that was at the time when the show was finding its legs with its own in-universe story.
I can name 2 episodes where I felt like it started to find its voice. I don't know if you've seen either of them. Did you see the early one where Steven is trying to celebrate their birthday and he starts aging?
Yes.
The end of that gets like legit emotional because they are terrified he's going to die. And I'm like, shit got real. And I should have told myself, get used to that.
Get used to that. See, that was an episode that I saw where I was like an episode before that, I was like, man, I'm not feeling this show. And then the show would pull that episode or something like it. I'll be like, God damn it, I'm still
something very genuine. And over time, that becomes like the norm. Even if it's not heavy, it's like it starts finding a grasp on its humor, on its characters, on its identity. Like I totally get when you're starting a production with a lot of cooks in the kitchen, sometimes it can take a little while for things to fully congeal, and I'm guessing that's what happened here. I don't know how public they've been about it. But the other episode that I think, I'd say the first episode that really felt to me like the show, because I think the show starts to hit its stride in season 1, which I guess is, like I said, when the Lapis stuff happens, and then Peridot. The Coach Steven episode, where Steven wants to get everybody in shape, I think is both genuinely funny. Like, I think I had my first hard laugh when Greg, who we need to talk about, is like, Pearl, want to watch some buff guys? And you see her, like, her eyes dart up and down, and she just goes very melancholy. No. I had to pause laughing like that. But it's also one of, no, it's not the first one, but it's one of the early, when it does a full-on musical number where, you know, it's Pearl's like, why won't you let it be like this? And I don't remember the lyrics, but like this is where the show starts to feel like something special to me. And then it becomes that. This show's from a kind of okay, has its moment show to one of the best and deepest all ages cartoons I've ever watched.
Yeah, it's one of the few cartoons that I would actually call emotional. And I don't mean emotional. I don't mean emotional in a way where, as like a jokey joke, like when Amethyst pulls breaks the fourth wall and is like, I don't know, man, there's too much crying in this show. I don't mean that.
That's what I was thinking at points. I didn't even see that episode. People cry over everything.
People do cry over everything in this show, but the fact that they were able to explain why they're crying and the reasons why they're crying is actually empathetic.
It's a super emotionally driven show. Like all the conflicts are driven by like disagreements, basically.
Yeah,
and differences of viewpoints,
or just straight up like not even miscommunication, like, oh no, I forgot my homework, but Bradley has my homework and she did it for me, or some dumb shit. I'm talking like miscommunication, as in like the episode where, and this is one of the bigger ones. So like when after Peridot forms a truce with the Crystal Gems, and I think the show kind of peaks here. And Peridot is like, she talks about like going back to Homeworld, how great Homeworld could have made Earth.
And then she talks to Yellow Diamond.
Yeah, and she talks to Yellow Diamond. She explains this. Peridot explains to Steven before that, and she's like, "I know what your problem is," and she's like, and she explains it as logically as Peridot is able to explain it, because Peridot is essentially a very logical person. Manic, yes. Emotional, yes. Probably one of the most emotional characters on the show, but she's also very logical. So she kind of, in her
early appearances, she's pure logic. She's like very computational.
Yeah. So when it comes to her talking to Yellow Diamond, that kind of betrayal isn't based on now you'll see, you'll all see. It's you'll definitely see what I'm trying to say,
right?
Because there's a lot of potential in this world, and I'll make you all see, especially Yellow Diamond. Like, that's the kind of miscommunication that I love, because it invites drama and it invites emotion in a way where it makes characters become people. Because even good people make fucked up decisions, and bad people can make good decisions.
Oh yeah.
That's just how great our world really is.
Then like I feel like season 1, if it is also guilty of something unfocused, like it really wants to be about Steven and it wants to be about Pearl. Like Amethyst and Garnet, you got to wait a bit to get their deals. And Pearl is, for someone who you think is going to be like the straight man voice for a reason, Pearl is a tremendously flawed character, and I love it.
Yes. Yeah, I think Pearl's like one of my favorites. Honestly.
Oh, she is so multidimensional, but it all adds up with her, and so much of it goes back to her love and admiration for Rose. Like it all seems to stem from both, the big action with Pink Diamond that the two of them kept secret forever until we get our big Pearlception episode, and her love for Rose. Like this is also a very progressive show. Like when we get to the stuff about Garnet being secretly Pokemon Gen 3, Ruby and Sapphire, they get married in a later episode. Like, and it's clearly made with I don't want to say an agenda makes it sound shitty, but it promotes a very open approach to people and life. And the idea of understanding and the importance of truly talking things out and viewing different viewpoints. Because I want to get to, full disclosure, I didn't have time to watch the movie and Future, which capped the series off, but I did get through a lot of key episodes up to Change Your Mind, and Change Your Mind was an experience. Holy shit. But we'll get to that. We still got time to talk about. What are some other things you want to bring up? Because I've been kind of steering this ship.
So you brought up the movie, and I always think it's kind of interesting. No, I'm sorry, not the movie. You brought up the wedding, and I always think it's kind of interesting when we get to that point, because it's around that time when the creator, Rebecca Sugar, was having a hard time trying to convince Cartoon Network that this what the wedding could be, right?
Right.
Because a same-sex wedding is rarely done for cartoons. That was the first one, if I'm not mistaken, so that was a huge deal.
Yeah. And then Mr. Rapper got gay, married, and broke the internet.
Yeah. So there was apprehension, let's put it that way.
Sure.
Because I mean that's a risk, and
you could alienate some people.
And cartoons, I'm not sure how true this is, but they're primarily driven or targeted towards young boys, 9 to 11. Sure. And it differs from studio to studio. I'm sure some studios are like, well, we try to position girls, but girls age out at this specific age, which look, I get that you need to run these cartoons so you can make commercials. It also makes it harder to run a wedding episode when you're trying to convince
boys to watch.
You're trying to convince boys to watch, yes. So you might have to say add in some action scenes in order to make it work. And then it kind of balloons the episode to a point where you've never really done this large an episode before, where it's just like one huge episode that has a fight in the middle, plus a song, plus a gigantic reveal, plus animation that you've technically never really done in this show before, plus kind of cap off some other story elements like the giant world shaped fusion that's underneath the world's crust. Yeah, the cluster. Oh man, there's a lot that went into to that episode, and it kind of, when I read the notes from the latest Steven Universe book that came out, it kind of highlighted that it's not just about these productions. Even if not just Steven Universe, right? Like I'm talking like Looney Tunes show, I'm talking Teen Titans, I'm talking Thundercats, SpongeBob. Every show has its production woes, only because we're all human, and
to err is human.
To err is human, and as artists, we need to trial and error our way into making sure that we keep the target demographic happy, or at least keep people interested in watching at enough numbers that justify more episodes.
Keep things on schedule and keep ratings on track.
Yes. So whenever I hear stories like that, trying very hard to satisfy viewers, trying while at the same time trying different kinds of production techniques to satisfy your own innate artistic needs, or even the artistic needs of the staff, such as varying up the storyboarding styles or the visual styles, so you know who it is for each episode. This is a long-winded way of saying, not that animation is hard, but you got to start thinking about how production works.
Yep.
Because a successful thing or a successful show isn't just successful because the story is good. I mean,
because people are talented and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's why you like it.
Yes.
Right? That's the reason why you like Steven.
But it's also how it happens.
Yeah. The reason why you've come to like Steven is because somewhere along the lines, writers have said, we've got to get away from annoying Steven and start giving him things to care about besides his shitty childhood things. We got to start having him think about not just being a crystal gem, but what it means to the crystal gems for him to become a crystal gem. You know?
Yes.
So there was this episode where Steven goes through the crystal gem trials or some shit, right?
Okay.
Where Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl are training Steven. They put him through the gauntlet, essentially. And Steven is doing pretty well until one point when he's about to face certain death. Like, holy shit, I failed. But the trap that he runs into doesn't kill him. And in fact, it doesn't really hurt him. It doesn't really do anything at all. He finds out that this entire gauntlet was just this ruse. And he starts to get really mad, like, they pranked me. God, they fucking punked me, man. They don't even trust me. So he goes to tell them off, but he overhears them like kind of lamenting that they don't know what they're doing. Like, they're trying very hard to train Steven, but they don't know how to train Steven.
I love that the show has points where, like, even though they're the mentors, like the Crystal Gems have group vulnerabilities. Like, I think it's pretty reasonable to call Jasper the main villain of the first season.
Mm-hmm.
And when they know that she's coming back, like they're just quietly sitting in that, like, their lounge, and Garnet admits they're all scared of what's coming.
Yeah,
and they're not sure what to do about it.
Yeah, so seeing Steven kind of grow from that point, that's not just like the writing has gotten so good. It's the writers have gotten better at figuring out who Steven is. And they've kind of planned out like So we need to take him from one point in order to get him to this point. And we figured out how to do it in a way that's entertaining.
That's the thing. Like, the center of the show is, and I love the scope of this, is Steven gradually helping people grow. Because he is this powerful but good-hearted soul who wants the best for everyone, doesn't want to resort to violence, intimidation, or alienation. He really just, he wants to do whatever he can to get people to, like, he says multiple times, stop and listen, stop and talk, like, actually get a grasp on what's going on between each of you. Like, he's got, in a way, more wisdom than them when it comes to that.
Yeah, and that's just how he's built, right? Like, he's built to be that person. And I like that the show in and of itself says that. And I also like that the writers have taken it several steps forward into displaying that. And when it comes to the movie and when it comes to Future, actually addressing that. And I've known people and I've heard people say that doesn't really vibe with who Steven is. But after watching Future, I get it because it's like he goes through so much shit.
Yeah, I read a little synopsis about what he goes through and what the ultimate conflict of Future is, and it comes from within him.
Yeah, and I think that's
a really smart move to do when you took on, like, you can't get a bigger villain than White Diamond post that. So it's like, let's make the trouble from within.
Yeah, the trouble comes from not just from within, but the center of the show. The center of the show is essentially emotional and mental health. Like it says simultaneously that yes, Garnet is perfect for herself because Ruby and Sapphire have found each other and have found each other not only in their own bliss but also in their own
purpose.
In their own purpose, for lack of a better word. And that kind of keeps them isolated from other relationships, either from being the kind of person that Pearl wants her to be, which kind of fucks that relationship up. And one of my favorite episodes where they become sardonyx, but also leads to Pearl realizing what, in a low key kind of way, what consent means, what it means to kind of.
One of my favorite things that they do there to touch on is that becomes an arc over the next couple of episodes because Pearl betrays her trust. Garnet refuses to talk to her, and my favorite little observation on it is when that episode. Do you remember what Amethyst's closing line is?
What was it?
Man, it's too bad life's not like a cartoon where everything's just cleared up by the end of the episode. Episode ends.
Cute.
Like it's kind of putting his mission statement there. Like, we're trying to be a little more realistic and developed than what you would expect.
Yeah, and I think that being able to talk about those relationships and emotional health in a way that's both entertaining but also poignant is very helpful to kids.
Oh man, you're talking in these impactful moments, and you've mentioned Lapis, who's probably my favorite design of the crystal gems. I like the fact that she actually has like a kind of a dress because most of them they're more armored looking. But the boating episode where Jasper comes back, because I had already heard it from people talking about like their relationship and their fusion stuff, that you could see it as an analogy for abuse, and I was like, yeah, I kind of see it. Then Jasper's flat up like, I'm different now. This time will be different. I'll treat you better. I didn't value you, and just like, holy shit.
Yeah, it's rough. And
Jasper is a bastard.
She is. I love Jasper for that. She's a very entertaining character. Yes, there are cartoons that need to do it. I'm not saying cartoons in the way I want to. There are shows, yes. There are shows that can explain that dynamic in better ways. And yes, Steven Universe is a children's show that does address the topic of emotional and even physical abuse.
Oh yeah, Lapis was a prisoner.
And at least in a way that's palatable to child audience.
Yes, you don't have her getting slapped across the face multiple times or something.
This is still a kid show talking about these kinds of traumas in the sphere of the Y7 rating block.
Yeah.
So
like they found a very clever workaround when they're like, well, gems don't get killed, they get shattered.
They get shattered.
Which becomes a huge conflict when you start getting into the Pink Diamond stuff, because they believe Rose crossed the line. And it turns out she crossed another sort of line because deceit.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what I get the gist of in terms of Steven's arc and showing that, you know, he's not Rose. That's something characters up to the final episode want to believe, that Rose is still in there, that he's not really his own person. He doesn't want to walk away from stuff to make it easier for himself. He wants to genuinely sort problems out, which is another really good moral.
Yeah. And the show is, it's so good being able to watch a show that talks about emotional health or even mental health.
I needed it
in a way that's entertaining. Not every show, not every episode is successful at it. I'm not a huge fan of the Onion episodes, and I know everyone hates the Ronaldo episodes. Don't get me wrong.
Ronaldo's fucking crazy.
Ronaldo is crazy, but it's unfortunate that they couldn't keep the dynamic that they had when they had the whatchamacallit, the
his
episode. No. I would have loved to see more of his little brother too. There was an episode where his little brother. Yeah, there's an episode where his little brother talks about working until you die, and I was like, oh, that's something to talk about, right? But they didn't address it anymore, and I was like, God, okay. But Ronaldo had an episode with Lars and Susie, whoever the small girl that Lars likes,
Sadie.
Sadie, yes. There's an episode where the three of them have a big fight at the lighthouse, and Steven's in the middle of it, right? And that was like the only episode that I genuinely love, and I stuck with Ronaldo for a long time, hoping that an episode like that would happen again, and it didn't.
He never got his moment. I'll admit, because there's a lot of episodes of the show, even though they're only like 11 minutes. I think there's over 100 of them. So in order to try and watch enough where I could reasonably talk about it, I basically looked up I watched most of season 1 and 2, and then looked up what are the important episodes and stuck to those up through season 5, because Change Your Mind could be a finale if they wanted it. The main thing that fell victim to that were those kind of filler for the actual plot, but fleshing out the inhabitants of Beach City episodes, because it's very smart with its cast, its supporting cast, I feel.
Yeah, I'm surprised Sinbad is in that show. Like,
yeah. For the first 2 or so seasons, he was recast after that. But I remember you brought that up when we mentioned the Sinbad joke in Freakazoid.
Oh right, yeah, okay, yeah, I do remember that. All right, so
and then can I say I love his training video, which is totally a spoof of those. You've seen like the Wendy's hot drinks video, right?
Yeah, I have.
Hot drinks.
So the show itself, I think, there's a lot that goes into these cartoons, and we forget that how stressful production can be. Sure. I'm not saying this as an apology. I'm not saying this trying to apologize for the show's shortcomings, because there's a lot of criticism that can be thrown at the show. Some of it justifiably, some of them not so justifiably. But I do think that it's seeing something like that kind of go from a season where I was kind of indifferent towards it. I was kind of, there's cool things about it, to going, oh, I can't wait for the next Steven bomb, or whatever the hell they were calling him.
That's it.
Calling those large episode drops. Like, I went from 0 to 60 so fast on that show, and it felt really good. Like,
better than the alternative.
Yeah. So there was a show. I'm sorry. There was an episode where Steven goes into like his little rose quartz mindscape or whatever.
Rose's room.
Rose's room. And like he concocts like this imaginary version of his mom. And, you know, they play football and they have like the greatest time of their life.
They do a Charlie Brown reference.
Yeah, they do a Charlie Brown reference, which is cute. And then it just goes fucking crazy. Like he realizes she's not real, and all this pent up like bullshit that he has that he kind of has buried deep down for a while just starts bubbling up. Calls her a liar, calls her like pretty much puts her on the spot for so much crap that she did before he was born, and how it's now on his shoulders to fix.
Yep.
And not only is that such a key moment for his character, like especially writing wise, because the writers have done so much work to get him to that point, and taking him from the cookie cat piece of shit that he was in season 1,
yep,
and taking him to the point where he's calling out his mom for her own shortcomings before he was even born. It takes a lot to reach that point in the story, and it's so much to respect.
Yeah,
I think, because it not only shows the strength of the writing and the core of the show, but it also shows, once you get the future, you'll see why that's bad. Actually, I mean, not bad in a way where it's like, oh, the writers screwed up, but bad in a way where it's bad for Steven to have kind of taken that on.
Okay, we've only got about 10 minutes left, so let me just say, I apologize to our viewers who have seen all of this, like the movie and future, that we're not really going to go into the depths of that. But I do got to talk about Change Your Mind, because I had to skip around a lot for those last couple seasons. So there were some key stuff I missed, but holy shit, what a finale!
Yeah,
that was powerful.
That was great.
You get this huge fight. You get, I guess it's the first time they all 4 of them fused together for Obsidian, which is like the coolest design.
Yes, it was. Obsidian was really awesome.
And then everything goes to another level when you finally... I love the fact that White Diamond is so hands-off everybody that you don't even really see her for a while. She has this big mech, like, effigy of herself. And then when you go inside, she is such a creepy, controlling, despicable person. And you really wonder, how the fuck is Steven going to get through to her? And it's not ultimately about... That's a case where it's not about his words or his actions. It's about who he is. She separates him. So you basically have his human side dying and then his pure power. And she's expecting Rose come out. She's stuck hard to this belief. You're still Rose Quartz. You're still Pink Diamond. You're not this little guy you're saying you are. And she sees him for who he is and the power that he has because of that. And that is what causes her to falter. And you've just got all these like stylistic touches. Like it's all monochrome in there with everybody she possesses and talks, except for him and Connie. And the music's getting intense, and that shot where they do a split screen for each half of Steven.
Oh yeah, that was beautiful.
When the one is formed from the diamond, it turns around and looks at the original, and you see it rotate like that. It's like, this is incredible.
Yeah,
this is like I'm watching a goddamn movie.
Yeah, it really was. That moment was so well done, like artistically and narratively. Like, you get it.
And I feel like the whole finale, you can see some anime influence in there.
Oh, definitely.
I wrote it down. Like, there are a lot of visual nods to. I remember in an early episode, Steven brings out some figurines. One is of Cloud. One is of Gitaru Man, which I brought up in our Rhythm Game episodes. I thought nobody remembered that. He's always playing on a GameCube. There's a cutaway gag where they're playing Smash. I think the big one, did you notice Space Lars and Blue Diamond's designs?
Space Lars was...
When he stays in space for a while and he has the captain outfit.
Yeah. He looks like...
Harlock.
What anime was that? Yes. Okay.
And
so
and when you're introduced to Yellow and Blue Diamond's design, her facial structure and hair is that same anime director, Leiji Matsumoto, he has a template he likes to use for his heroines. And she was basically based on that. So I'm like, oh, there's some clear tributes going on. And even down to the casting, like Connie's mom is Major Kusanagi.
Oh, that's cool.
And the one that tickled my fancy is Mayor Dewey. That's the creator of Mystery Science Theater. Joel Hodgson.
Get out. That's
By the way, Kickstarter for MST3K Revival going on right now. I already donated to it. Hopefully it'll still be going when this episode comes out. Please donate. That's a great show.
Cool.
But yeah, and then getting back to Change Your Mind, he's able through this being who he is to get White Diamond to start to change. And then that last montage where they're reforming all the corrupted gems and, Jasper comes out and they're showing her it's okay now and everybody's cheering up. Yeah, I was crying. I was like, I skipped so much and I'm still just like, look how far this has come. Look where we started and where we are. Like, this is such an effective... You could have closed the book here, and I'm especially excited to see where it goes as in terms of like being an epilogue and focusing on different conflicts. But I'm just like, this is one of the best kids. I'm doing quotey fingers cartoons I have ever seen.
Yeah, I have to agree that like there's
From
a lot
humble beginnings.
Yeah, like this show started out like as this big goofy thing, like this very monster of the week with some inklings of something else.
Yeah,
going
tiny
on.
bits.
Yeah, and then when those inklings start to like you said, blossom into something else, it really becomes something else. Like that is the core of the show. Like that becomes like what the production team has always been trying to get to. Like that is it's so cool seeing that happen.
Yeah, we're running low on time, so we should probably start wrapping things up. I'm sorry if you're a big completionist fan of the show and we didn't talk about your favorite moment, but one, I was pressed for time, and two, there's so much to this show, even if we watched all of it, we wouldn't have been able to. But I'm grateful that we could talk about it, and I hope my closing thoughts. So, with how much Steven Universe tackles and handles, honestly, like, spectacularly for supposedly an all-ages audience, I kind of can't believe this show happened. And especially how from such like a humble beginning, it just exploded into something so special, so deep, so clearly personal and a labor of love. And I'll tell you something else that has me excited, because we've talked about influence. Can you imagine years from now when we start getting shows from people who are influenced by this?
Oh, yeah, that's going to be wild, man.
We're going to get some wonderful stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad it has been such a hit, and it has definitely left its mark on cartoon culture, and I'm so happy to finally look at something for the bigger picture and go, I get it. So,
yeah.
Chris, closing thoughts on Steven Universe.
So my closing thoughts are, if you haven't watched, first of all, if you haven't watched the series or the movie or Future, all of that's available on HBO Max.
That's where I watched it. Yep.
Yeah. It's a great series that talks about emotional health and mental health in ways that starts out a little rough. Yes. I don't even say little. I'd say very rough.
I'm going to tell my brother to watch it, but maybe skip like the first 10 episodes.
Yeah. But once the story gets going, you can hang with it and really start to see, like, if you really want to see a show evolve from beginning to end, if you're interested in just taking like a critical look and just be able to enjoy characters and see like where the creator's vision goes from top to bottom, whether or not it has to do with creative differences or even the differences between different artists in their styles, or even when it comes to how Cartoon Network executives or even studio executives chime in with their thoughts, both positive, both negative, and how they affect the show. Steven Universe is really good about showing you that. Like, it goes from a kid who likes stupid ice cream sandwiches way too much to having an existential breakdown in space. And I think that's I think that's wild that we have a show like that. I think it's super cool that we have a show like that. And we've gone from the days of Hanna-Barbera to Fleischer, Hanna-Barbera and Fleischer cartoons, and cartoons that are just built to make you laugh, to shows that make you feel a wide range of emotions that cartoons really I don't want to say shouldn't, but haven't been able to make people feel outside of the theatrical stuff.
Yep.
Give it a shot, because I know anime does this a lot, but it's nice to see Western cartoons do it a lot too.
Yes, this has me very encouraged for what the future holds, honestly, with how well it did. So that's going to bring the episode 40 to a close. Chris, I want to thank you again for taking time out to reconnect on the show and discuss so much cool stuff. It's always a treat to have you on. So where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter. You can find me there at It's Me, Chris Wade.
I always wanted to go, it's a me, Chris Wade.
Yeah, it's that, but lose the A, essentially.
Yes, lose the Mario.
Yeah. So you can find me on Twitter at It's Me, Chris
Brody,
Wade.
shut up. We're done.
You can find me at Artful at It's Me, Chris Wade as well. Yeah. You can find me on Twitter yelling about cartoons, pumping other people up, talking about my own little film.
I think I highly recommend if you enjoy Twitter a lot that because you offer a lot on your account. You do offer cartoons, you do offer personal projects. You talk a lot about real things going on in the industry, in the real world. Like it's a lot of really cool stuff.
Thank you. I'm very tired. So
aren't we all?
So it's very it's a lot. And so yeah, you can find me there.
Yep, myself. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr at behonart, BEHONART. I primarily post artwork on Twitter and Instagram, and shit posts on Tumblr, and Behan on YouTube. And also, I'll be including this in the show description from here on out. The Discord server I've been running. You can also find side projects at Wario Reanimated and Bobobo OOC for Out of Context Bobo and Wario Reanimated. The Wario Reanimated Discord, because we're deep into the follow-up project and we're hoping to have it done late next year, but we've got a cool community I want to keep going. I'm slowly turning it into a general hub, both for other projects like this show and Spacious, and just general talk about movies, TV, cartoons, and games. And I also want to say I've added a Sketch Watch Play channel to it, and we will be reading feedback on it in the future. So if you want to participate with your thoughts on topics or suggestions for topics, please have at it. The more the merrier. But again, this has been a wonderful episode. Chris, I want to thank you again for providing so many fun stories.
Thank you for having me.
And I cannot think of a good Steven Universe quote go out on unless you can, Chris.
Let me think. I should have thought of this beforehand.
I should have too.
It's fine. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Oh, it's a classic Steven line. Yeah. That when he just looks at the camera at the end, he goes, "Thanks for joining us, everyone," and breaks the fourth wall. It's so good.
Oh, I like it when he just goes. I like it a lot when he just looks at the camera and just goes, "Thanks, everyone. I love you." And that breaks my heart every time. Aww. Like I'm like, no. So yeah, that's fine.
It's not the last shot, but the way season 4 ended with him getting in the ship and going to Homeworld.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this show's an emotional roller coaster. Go watch it. On that note, good night, everybody.
See ya.
I don't need you to respect me, I respect me. I don't need you to love me, I love me. But I want you to know you could know me if you change your mind. If you change your mind. If you change your mind. Change your mind.
My mind is the internet. I know every continuity mistake ever made on television.